Thanks for joining us for a taste of all that's new, interesting and controversial at the British International Motor Show.
And this year's theme invites us to take a trip into tomorrow. And judging by some of the weird and wonderful experimental cars on display here, we motorists have got a pretty exciting time to look forward to. These space-age shapes are not idealistic dream machines. They're a practical part of the search for better economy and performance that will benefit us all.
We'll also be doing some soul-searching with the aid of Oxford psychologist Dr. Peter Marsh. Hello, Peter. Who's interested not just in what we buy, but in why we buy it.
Yes, indeed, and for a social psychologist, it's a very rich and revealing area, because if you want to understand what makes people tick, you look at what they drive.
Whatever your motivation, it's no good even contemplating this little brute unless you've got £100,000 to spare. That's the price of this Tickford limousine version of the Lagonda four-door saloon. It's the most expensive car on show, very exclusive, very British, and with the latest electronic dashboards, 5 mini television screens provide all the driver information, just like the systems in a modern fighter aircraft.
Hey, Suzanne, stop daydreaming. You can't have it. Come and have a look and see what most people end up buying.
Really?
Greetings, car buyers. It's the top 10 best-selling cars of the last 10 years, and at number 10, on the way out after a very successful run on the charts, the Vauxhall Fever. Also on the way down, another old favourite on the Vauxhall label at number 9, the Chevette. And in at number 8 and set for a long run on the charts, the Austin Metro. And here we go again, down a few places to number 7. It didn't make the top, unfortunately, the Austin Allegro. And fighting its way up at number 6, here it comes, the Cavalier. And hovering at number 5, Ford's hot little hatchback, the Fiesta. And we've got a golden oldie at number 4, down one place from last decade's top 3. That's right, the Mini. And that brings us to the top 3 cars of the last 10 years as compiled by the Society of Motor Manufacturers and Traders. And at number 3, the Morris Marina. And at number 2, we have another strong entry from Ford, the Escort. But at number 1, the best-selling car of the last 10 years, re-released 4 times, the sales rep's friend, the Ford Cortina. And that's them. The top 10 from the last 10. All right.
I wonder if Henry Ford knew what he was starting. Well, the Cortina's gone, but the Escort is booming. The best-selling car in the world, Ford reckon. And this is their latest version. The RS Turbo, the fastest Escort ever. 0 to 60 in just over 8 seconds, 126 miles an hour, fuel injection, turbocharging. It's based on the Rally Escorts, real insurance company's nightmare.
I bet a lot of people are surprised to see the Capri here again. As Mark Twain might have said, reports of its death have been exaggerated. Ford think there's still a lot of life left in it, and this 2.8 injection version seems like a classic in the making.
And this is still one of the most controversial cars on the market, the Sierra. Ford reckon it's selling very well, though they do admit not as well as they expected. There are no major changes in the shape, though. The main change is under the bonnet, where a 1.8-litre engine is said to give similar economy to the existing 1.6 engine. There's also a new automatic gearbox with a special clutch that locks up in 3rd and 4th gear and cuts out the slip that makes most automatics more thirsty than manual. You might have seen some cheeky adverts that say this is the replacement for the Cortina and not the Sierra. It's Korea's Hyundai Stella, selling at typically low Eastern price from £4,500 to you. It's compared with the old Mark IV Cortina. Rear-wheel drive, inline engine, suspension. On the other hand, it's better equipped and probably better built than any Mark IV ever was. What you get is a lot of car for your money, but it's somewhat old-fashioned to drive. Really, it is a design of the 70s.
It's a bit sneaky, really.
What?
Selling one car by pretending it's like another.
Yeah, no wonder the car manufacturers are so secretive. You have to be a special agent to get into some car factories. 3540 Patrick Mower. made it. This is the top secret design centre for Austin Rover, Great Britain, hidden deep in the heart of Warwickshire. The only reason they've allowed me in here is because I used to be a draftsman here about 5 or 6 years ago. Well, maybe 7. But underneath these tarpaulins, it's not a morgue. They are the cars of the future, the cars that you will be driving. The man responsible for this dream factory is over there. Let's go and have a look in the future. Is it really that secret, Roy?
It certainly is, Patrick. It's very important that we keep our security in this sort of place.
It is very, very secret, isn't it?
It certainly
And
is.
all these mysteries, which I hope you're going to show us something, you know. Is there anything we can see? I mean...
Let me give you just a tantalizing little glimpse.
Gosh! So in this room somewhere is the new Rover XX.
Yes?
You going to let me see it?
No.
I see. Some people actually... What's this?
Well, it's a fiberglass model, about 2 years old now.
Oh.
Montego.
They all get mocked up like that, don't they?
Mm-hmm, they do.
Some people say they already know what the new Rover's going to look like.
Ah, yes. A lot of people think they know what the XX looks like.
There've been pictures in the magazines, aren't
Yes, but the magazines rarely get it right.
Yeah. How far ahead do you actually plan?
Well, we plan maybe 4 to 10 years ahead.
10 years is a hell of a long time, isn't it?
Mm.
10 years ago, we were wearing bell-bottom trousers, and they're very old-fashioned now.
We were, yes.
So how do you know your car isn't going to be 10 years out of date in the future?
Well, we never really know. All we have to do is watch the trends, follow the trends, and make sure we get it right. That's our job.
Not necessarily your Rover, but I mean, it is the car of the future. Do you see that things like, I mean, diesel is being used in a lot of new designs. Will that come into the...
Well, it
your
may.
thinking?
Diesel is very sensitive to the kind of taxes that go on fuel and the availability of fuel, etc. So we may or may not see diesel.
We're always looking for things that actually are going to catch the public's mind. I mean, look, plastic, have you got ideas for plastic?
Plastic will certainly come, but perhaps the big news for the future is, of course, electronics. Our cars will be designed for computer, by computer. And by the way, that's to get better quality.
What is this credit card computer or
Well,
something that goes
that's
on?
part of the application of computers to the inside of cars. Now, you've seen it on instrumentation in cars in a very preliminary way so far, but we see in the future maybe a credit card being used for entry into the car. It can maybe operate your seating so that it can have a memory. Your seat can automatically adjust to the position you've set it to, or your wife.
Yeah.
A personal
So whoever's
credit
going to
card,
drive the car has a different card?
he has a different card, and it can set the car up for you.
Will it drive you home?
I don't think it will drive you home. At least I wouldn't think I would like a credit card to drive me home quite yet.
So, design and styling, creating that first visual impression, is a highly competitive game. For the French, chic and style are synonymous. So, where else to meet the world's only head of styling but in Paris? He's Citroën's Carl Olsen.
But in England, we call them 2CVs, is it?
Right.
Yeah. When you're designing a car, I mean, in the interiors as well, are you thinking of anybody in particular? Are you aiming at a particular market, like man or woman?
Some cars, the lower price cars, obviously you try to appeal to a youth-orientated market, and very often women, you have women in mind as well, because often it's the second car in the family, and it's usually a small car.
Would you say then that the appearance of a car is as important as the performance?
Well, research done by Citroën has suggested that 70% of the motivation for buying a car is its style and not its performance.
You're saying that more women are going to be influenced by it than men, because, I mean, women are the sort of leaders of style and fashion.
Well, that's interesting. For example, the latest English Vogue, which I bought this month, now has about 30% men's fashions in it. And so you see this movement towards a very much more fashion-conscious society everywhere in Europe.
When you're creating an interior, would you see somebody walking down the Champs-Élysées in a nice sort of gabardine mac and say, excuse me, can I borrow that material? I want to put it in my... Or do you create it yourself?
Well, it's funny you should ask that, because I've done exactly that. I've asked people if I can cut their necktie to have a piece. However, we send our stylists to not only fashion shows and not only car shows to look at what's happening in the motor industry. We send them to fashion shows in Paris, which is the capital of fashion. We send them to fabric shows. We send them to sports equipment shows. We send them to everything to get an idea, because fashion's not only clothes, it's fashion and lifestyle, sports, jogging, all these things have enormous influence on the decisions we make for the fashions we use in the car.
I hope you're terribly impressed with my Jaguar jumper, my Jaguar book and wallet, and my Jaguar sunglasses.
I'm very impressed, and I hope you're also impressed with my Jaguar briefcase, my extremely smart Jaguar shoulder bag, and my extremely smart Jaguar anorak, which only the finest train spotters would be seen in.
Terribly smart.
I also have a very smart Jaguar watch, which for £3,000, you don't even get any figures on it. You just get X11 at the top and absolutely nothing else.
Right.
Still, you can't blame Jaguar for wanting to cash in on their success. They're out on their own with quality cars since Rover went Japanese, and it's working so well that there isn't a new car on the stand this year. A new model is on the way, but the companies say they don't need to put it on the market until they've got it absolutely right. Demand is still very strong for existing models. This is the XJS Cabriolet, and it's selling so well, the Jaguar are taking over the conversion work from Tickford's, with plans to boost production from 200 a year to 200 a month.
Peter, surely Mr. Jaguar is a famous enough animal on his own, isn't he, without having all these accessories? He doesn't need all this stuff, surely.
No, I don't think he needs any of them, and I don't think your average Jaguar owner would actually be seen dead walking around with all this stuff and wearing those clothes. Except perhaps if he's a real aficionado into the old models and that kind of thing. I think it's much more likely you see the average metro driver wearing this stuff and having one of those stickers in the back saying my other car's a Porsche.
But the image of car is very important these days to sales and everything else.
Indeed, and I think cars and clothes are very similar in that sense because they are a way of making some sort of self-presentation, making a statement about yourself, saying this is the kind of person I am, this is the kind of car I drive.
Do you think, though, that then the same, that the car actually makes a statement, that it is to do with someone's ego, that if you drive a very flash car that you are maybe a very flash person, or if you drive a little car that you're a little person?
But that is all cars are. They are ways of making those kind of statements. The fact that you can actually go from A to B in them seems to be an extremely trivial aspect of cars altogether. But if that was all they had going for them, I'm sure we would not have big motor shows like this today.
Car one-upmanship is very important. However, for a different kind of one-upmanship, look here. This is a bit more like it. It's not only cars that have advanced their images and their technology. Truck and lorry manufacturers are equally conscious of the new thinking. You no longer have to buy an expensive car to achieve one-upmanship. Any of these vehicles will do just as well. Somehow, for me, there is a very special, practical satisfaction from the safe control of a vehicle as large and as powerful as this. For all I know, it may be a form of megalomania. Perhaps I just want to be in control of as large a thing as possible. But I don't think so. Phew. That was fun. This psychedelic menagerie of machinery is known as a bunch of super trucks. There is a whole hall devoted to super trucks, most of which are not only pretty looking, but have a lot of practicality as well. Super trucks as a whole, I think I'm quite cynical of, unless they're being exploited for the commercial use for which they were designed. But as silly trucks go, this rallying DAF is one of my favorite. The thing is that this vehicle has two of everything. It has twin 12-litre turbocharged diesels, putting 880 brake horsepower, which could propel you at 105 miles an hour, fully laden. It has twin 600-litre fuel tanks, which would cost you £400 to fill up at current pump prices. And of course, it has two cabs. Oh. One very silly and one very practical aspect of this particular truck, this wonderfully kitsch paintwork, which tells you the noise that trucks make, in case you didn't know, which is va-voom. Moving on to this strange Hawaiian skirt effect, which is, in fact, to keep water spray inside the wheel arch. Anyone who's tried to overtake a juggernaut on a rainy motorway will know that this is a good idea. A very nice customized paint job on the outside, but a very swish interior, with everything, including the kitchen sink. In fact, it's so swish it's even got carpets on the floor, and I know many truckers who would find that hopelessly impractical. This is the new DAF Space Cab, which for the first time in truck cab history, you can actually stand up and almost walk around. It could easily accommodate a 6'4" person. Twin bunks, electric shaver socket, and this vehicle has its own central heating controlled by this thermostat here, which runs from the diesel oil and can keep you warm all night without having to run your engine. A loony from Halifax has decided that this is the ultimate truck one-upmanship, and I think he's right, because this is a 24,000 brake horsepower Rolls-Royce jet-powered truck, capable of 170 miles per hour and of going from 0 to 100 in 10 seconds. And we're going to see it go. And I think I'm going to regret being part of this program.
I think you need a pilot's license rather than a driver's license for that. But if it's speed you're interested in, what about this? The Ferrari Testarossa. A 5-litre, 12-cylinder engine in the middle of the car takes it to 180 miles an hour.
Imagine that, 110 miles an hour over the 70 limit.
Yeah, Ferrari say it's the world's most powerful GT car, and they're probably right.
It's not the fastest Ferrari, though. That honour goes to the GTO. Less than 3 litres, V8, twin turbos, and 190 miles an hour.
It's amazing the way the supercars made a comeback, isn't it? I mean, 10 years ago, you'd have said they were dead, killed off by the fuel crisis. You wouldn't believe it now, looking around the show.
Lotus are leading the way with their concept car. It's a 180 miles an hour prototype with a computer inside that not only controls the brakes, engine and gearbox, but also the suspension, ensuring that the car always maintains the same attitude to the road. That makes sure that the aerodynamics don't change.
TVR say their 390 SE convertible is the fastest convertible sports car available in this country. 150 miles an hour, 0 to 112 seconds. I bet that makes you have to lap around a bit. At least it looks like a sports car. Yours, £19,000. You might be getting the impression that excitement costs a lot of money. That isn't so. For about £10,000, you can have one of these. Not one of these, one of these. It's Panther Solo, a Ford-powered mid-engine car with an aluminium body, steel chassis and plastic panels to prevent parking knots. They'll be made in Surrey, and Panther's owner, young Kim, that's his name, not his age, reckons the aim is to make a car as exciting as a Ferrari for a fraction of the cost. And you can order them here at the show. Would you like one?
I'd love one.
Well, now, here's a very well-built motor car. In fact, a very well-built motor car indeed, although a bit of a boy racer.
Oh, very much a boy racer kind of car. But, you know, I think there's a bit of boy racer in all of us who drive cars, and especially in
well,
Rowan.
is in me. Yes, I have to confess, I bought an Aston Martin Vantage quite recently, and it's very much, and when you start buying cars at that level of price and performance, one is very aware of the image of them, which is why I chose an Aston Martin, a very British solid car, rather than a Ferrari or a Porsche.
Ah, well,
a little bit flash for me.
You know what the Germans say about the Porsche driver?
What do they say?
The man who drives a Porsche is the man who walks around with his flies undone. And that, I think, says everything there is to know about these kinds of cars. They're about sexuality. Of course, speed.
And, of course, speed. Speed. It's very interesting how when you get into an Escort 1.1 these days, and you see these speedometers going up to 140 miles an hour, and you think this car will go 140 miles an hour, and you're absolutely right, you know, it only goes 98. But they have a standard speedometer. But my car, my Aston, must be one of the few cars that you can buy that actually goes the maximum speed indicated on the dial. I won't tell you what it is.
Toyota have noticed the gap in the small sports car market, hence the MR2. It's a 1.6-litre mid-engine rear-wheel drive, and it's mainly aimed at the American market, so only 300 will arrive in Britain next year. Price isn't fixed yet, probably around £9,000. Of course, a lot of people who mourn the passing of the MGB and the Spitfire will say it's not a proper sports car, it hasn't got a hood. Don't worry, though. The traditional British sports car is back at this year's show, and for a lot less money than you'd think.
Well, believe it or not, this sports car is older than me. No funny remarks. And in 1984, Reliant are still here to prove that they are still into open-top sports cars. And I'm going to show you their latest one. The most amazing thing about Reliant is that they are still here. Think of all those millions of pounds of taxpayers' money that it took to save Austin Rover and Jaguar from the effects of the recession, and you'll see what I mean. Reliant have had some rough times, a bad fire, redundancies, money troubles, and no help from anyone. Just a grim determination to keep going. The new sports car has a German-built steel chassis and a body designed by Michelotti in Italy. Dunlop makes the flexible, reinforced plastic bolt-on panels. They won't chip or rust and are so easy to replace that insurance premiums should be low. The engines are Ford, but the new car's name is completely homegrown. They wanted to call it the Scorpio, but that belonged to someone else, as did all the other names they thought of.
In the end, what we decided to do was use a tried name that Reliant have ourselves, Scimitar, which nobody else can tell us not to use.
Right, yeah.
The car's had a long and distinguished history. We've had some many famous customers, still have, and we decided Scimitar would do very nicely.
How much is a car like this going to cost the buyer?
Well, we haven't exactly worked out a final price, but I can be sure that it'll be under £7,000
That's very
for the
good, isn't it? Very
1300 model.
competitive.
We think so.
The SS1 is powered by a standard Ford engine. There are two versions, the 1300 and the 1600, which you might find in the Sierra. The 1300 will just do 100 miles an hour and the 1600 about 111. Plans are already well advanced for a turbo version. Fuel consumption? Between 35 and 40 miles a gallon, and 0 to 60 in just over 12 seconds for the small engine and under 10 seconds with the 1600. The gearbox is from Ford, 5-speed, and you can believe Reliant when they say the whole car is over-engineered. That should mean a long life. More than you can say for the ducks that don't know their Green Cross code. Once
see this car? Well, there's a new family saloon that's wider inside.
What, than one of those?
Certainly. It's also got more rear legroom than...
Than, one of those?
Than one of those. And it has a larger boot than...
Not than, one of those?
Than of any car.
So what is this new car, then? Ah, of course. It's one of those. I might have guessed.
The new Jetta. More Volkswagen than you think.
It's a good, good feeling.
Only natural ingredients and pure vegetable oils go into Blue Band, so there's a lot to feel good about. Blue Band, something to feel good about.
It's a good, good feeling.
Back this, sir. Where? Right.
Roger, Jungle on base, ETA casualty 1800 hours.
Don't worry, they're on the way. Weather's closing in. I hope they look.
The people you rely on most rely on Ford Transit.
Everybody's doing it. Everybody's walking the dog.
Begins, that's right. And the right way to enhance your home is with a superb garage door from the top-selling range of up and over doors from Henderson. To match your garage door, a beautiful county door. And where in the world but Dickens could you find so many colours and design combinations to choose from? Plus an exquisite choice of brass fittings and glass patterns. Each door is craftsman finished to a standard that satisfies the most discerning eye. All from the home improvement experts.
Begins, that's right. Perfectly than to have a world party on the day you came to be. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Why has there never been a holiday? Yeah.
Couldn't let Motor Show 84 go by without celebrating the 25th birthday of the Mini. It's always been one of my favourite designs, and as you know, there's usually a very beautiful girl inside a Mini, and today is no exception. Suzanne, eat hard.
It's all right for you, Patrick, but what about the workers? Here I am with the men who make the Mini. They've been making it for the last 25 years, a quarter of a century. Jim, crack the champagne. Well done, Jim. Cheers. Cheers. All the best. John, all the best. Joseph. Whoa!
Cheers, Suzanne.
Cheers.
All the best.
To the Mini.
I specialize in Minis because they have these 3 degrees. You can be very sedate, medium, or you can use your Mini Metro with no signs on it to take a Mercedes on the outside at 140 miles an hour, wind the window down and say to the owner of the Mercedes, £100 second-hand. That's one of my favorites.
Not many people know, but if you laid all the Minis ever made end to end, they would stretch 1.5 times around the world.
Did you know that you could get you and 23 girls into one of those Minis?
Can I really?
You could try it.
Where are they?
This is a masterpiece. Alec Isiganis, you're one of the great men of our time. If only we had salesmen as good as you, this car would have swamped the world.
Still hidden away at Longbridge is Sir Alex's secret workshop. This is your own private little hut here, is it?
That's Sir Alex's place. This is Sir Alex's.
You two and Sir Alex?
We just work together.
Yeah? How often do you see Sir Alex nowadays?
Each day.
Each day?
We go up there each day, and he gives out instructions for the following day.
And does he still come up with designs?
Oh, yeah. He does, yes.
Really? Cigarette packets?
What he does is he gets the newspaper, and he writes all his information on the newspaper, and you bring it back, and you do what he's written down.
Really?
Yes, but usually it is nearly to scale.
What did you say? You said he was an eccentric genius, yes? Yeah. We like that.
Incidentally, I'm rich enough to afford a Rolls Royce these days, but I'm clever enough to drive a Mini.